H-Town, welcome into Texans Today. I am Will Scott. On today's show, we're going to take a look at what Mel Kiper Jr. of ESPN thought about the Texans 2023 draft class. Speaking of the draft, huge week for our channel last week. 511 new subs. Thank you to all of you for subscribing to the channel. And if you're sub, be sure to turn on your notifications, select all, and hit that notification bell below. You'll get a notification on your phone whenever we put out a video. It's the best way to stay in the loop with the Houston Texans. Big week for our channel and for the Houston Texans as well. Mel Kiper released his 2023 NFL draft grades. What did he think about the Texans selections? And we'll break down all of the Texans selections on today's show, starting with C.J. Stroud. So the Texans, a lot of people thought that they were going to go another direction, not take a quarterback in the first round here. They proved a lot of people wrong by taking C.J. Stroud, which was the right decision. But the bigger stunner was a few minutes after they turned in the card for Stroud, trading up to number 3, having back-to-back selections in the top 3, and taking the best player in this entire draft class, Will Anderson Jr. Another surprising pick was Juice Scruggs, quite frankly. I liked the pick more than most people did. He was supposed to be a 4th-round pick. They take him with one of the last picks in the 2nd round, but they needed a center. Whippler, he was falling for maybe a medical reason, so they went with Scruggs, and I think Scruggs is going to be really good. Nathaniel Dell, the wide receiver from Houston, they trade up to get him. Fantastic pick. You keep Dell in the 7-1-3. Dylan Hort, who was born in Houston, you bring him home. This might have been the biggest deal in the entire draft. Henry To'oTo'o from Alabama, DeMeco Ryans' alma mater. And then Jarrett Patterson, the center from Notre Dame. Sorry to those of you who noticed I said Tippmann the other day that the Texans drafted. I meant Patterson, the center from Notre Dame. And then Xavier Hutchinson, the wide receiver from Iowa State. That was another steal. You got him in the 6th round. And then the Texans' 9th and final selection was Brandon Hill, the safety from Pittsburgh. You get him in round 7. So what did Mel Kiper think about the Texans selections? Well, in his draft grades article, he gave the Texans a B. And I thought that was a little bit surprising. I thought Mel Kiper would give the Texans a higher grade than that. We'll get into his reasoning here in a second. I, of course, gave the Texans an A. I felt a lot better about the Texans class than Mel Kiper Jr. What is your grade, though, for Houston's 2023 draft class? Let me know down in the comment section. It is the pinned comment on today's video. So when ad break comes, go down, chime in. What is your grade for Houston's 2023 draft class? Now let's get into why Mel Kiper gave the Texans a B instead of an A or even an A+. I thought the Texans were a clear winner from this draft. Kiper disagreed. Here's what he said. Sanity prevailed, and they took C.J. Stroud number 2. The stunner happened right afterward. Houston traded picks number 12 and number 33, plus 1st and 3rd rounders in 2024 for picks number 3 and 105. It then drafted top-ranked edge rusher Will Anderson Jr., number 3 overall, giving the team 2 of my top 5 prospects overall. Normally, I'd say that's amazing for the Texans, but they gave up a ton to make it happen, as I wrote Thursday night. I don't expect them to compete for an AFC South title this season, which means that 2024 first-round selection could be a coup for the Cardinals. Ultimately, General Manager Nick Caserio and company will talk about the prospects they've added, but at this time next year, they could be in real trouble. Now, in fairness to Mel Kiper's take, yeah, it was a haul that they gave to Arizona. I was not expecting a first-round pick to be in that trade that they gave to Arizona, a future first-round pick. Taking a look at this trade, the Texans got number 3, number 105. The Cardinals got the Texans first-rounder next year. And at the time, we did not know if it was the Browns first-rounder, because the Texans obviously own the Browns first-rounder next year, or Houston's first. It is, in fact, Houston's first-round pick next year. Maybe the Texans feel like they're going to be better than the Browns in 2023. They also got the 2nd-round pick from this year, which was basically a first-round pick, number 33 overall, and then a 2024 first and 3rd-round picks. Now, they did make a trade with the Eagles, of course, in day 3, getting a 3rd-round pick back. So that certainly helps the haul you gave up a little bit. But who won this trade? Type HOU or type ARI down in the comment section. Quite frankly, I think this could be a win-win trade. The Texans got 2 of the top 5 players in this draft, in my opinion, and in Mel's. The Cardinals get that first-round pick next year. I think this trade will be worth it for the Texans, and here's why. You get 2 franchise cornerstone pieces in C.J. Stroud and Will Anderson. You get your franchise quarterback, C.J. Stroud, and you got the best player in this draft class in Will Anderson. Yeah, it would have been nice to have 2 first-round picks again next year, but it's not like you're only giving up your only first-round pick in 2024. You're still going to have a pick. The Browns might be good. They're not going to be a contender. It's probably going to be a pretty good draft pick. And again, you get your franchise quarterback, Stroud, and an unbelievable presence on defense in Will Anderson. I think it was important for the Texans to address both needs here in the first round, quarterback and edge rusher. Speaking of Stroud, you can go get his jersey right now, chatsports.com/Stroud. Go get your C.J. Stroud Texans jerseys right now. When that number's released, that is the number you are going to receive at your doorstep. Chatsports.com/Stroud. That link is in the comments and the description of today's video. Go and get your C.J. Stroud jerseys right now. Will Anderson Jr., you, of course, bring him in as well with the number 3 overall pick. Tom Downey's scouting report saying arguably the best pass rusher since Myles Garrett. Plays tough, holds up well versus the run with elite pass rushing ability. Now let's get into Mel Kiper's thoughts on the Texans' Day 2 and Day 3 picks. So since they didn't have a second-round pick, his thoughts on the round 3 picks and beyond here for Houston. And it obviously started with Juice Scruggs. Here is what Mel Kiper said about that. On Day 2, Houston reached significantly in trade up to do so for center Juice Scruggs, though I'm a fan of wideout returner Tank Dell. So correction, they took Scruggs late in the second round, trading up to get him. Though I'm a fan of wideout returner Tank Dell and what he could bring to this offseason. Give Dell the ball in space and let him score touchdowns. On Day 3, Houston added back a 2024 third-rounder in a deal with Philly, which was a nice move. I also think linebacker Henry To'oTo'o at 167 and wide receiver Xavier Hutchinson at 205 could be solid finds. We'll start with Tank Dell here. This was an awesome pick for the Texans. You keep him in Houston, an electric player with good production. This guy could be an absolute steal in the third round. I think he's going to have a big impact in this offense next season. Then you get Xavier Hutchinson, who was an All-American at Iowa State last year. You get him in the 6th round. You add him to this wide receiver room as we take a look at the updated wide receiver depth chart. I think Collins, Woods, and Mechie probably going to be your top 3 guys. But you also have Noah Brown, who you added in free agency, Tank Dell, who you added in the draft, as well as Xavier Hutchinson. If they go with 6 wide receivers, those are probably going to be the 6 guys on the 53-man roster. I expect Amari Rodgers, though, to make this team as well. I think they'll probably carry 7 wideouts. Rate the Texans' wide receiver room. Yeah, you lost Brandon Cooks. I still think you improved this wide receiver room this offseason. Scale it 1 to 10 down in the comments section. What do you think about the Texans' wide receiver room going in to this next season? And I agree with Mel Kiper. I think that Henry To'oTo'o is going to be an absolute steal. This is someone else that you brought in fairly late, 5th round, All-American at Alabama. This was one of the biggest steals in the entire draft. When I saw the Texans turned in the card for To'oTo'o, I'm like, oh my God, how the flip did Houston land this guy in the 5th round? Look at the production. The last 2 seasons at Alabama, over 200 tackles, 15.5 tackles for loss, 6.5 sacks. He was probably next to Will Anderson, the heart and soul of that Alabama defense the last 2 years. Those 2 players now on the same team in the National Football League. I disagree with Mel Kiper Jr. I think this is an A-plus draft for Houston. They crushed this draft from top to bottom. Yeah, you had to give up a lot to go up and get Anderson, but by having 2 of the first 3 picks, you addressed 2 significant needs and added players that are going to be big for your franchise in years to come. And then After that, you added a lot of good players. You got a starting caliber center in Juice Scruggs. Jarrett Patterson, if Juice Scruggs doesn't work out, maybe Patterson will. You got him in the 6th round. You get Tank Dell, is going to be big for you, I think, from year one and beyond. Xavier Hutchinson was a steal. Henry To'oTo'o was a steal. You get my point. I mean, from top to bottom, Houston really crushed this draft. They had 9 picks. They certainly made the most of those picks. Give a lot of credit to Nick Caserio and D'Amico Ryans in this organization for the job they did in this draft. I'm giving the Texans an A. No doubt about it. I disagree with Mel. I think the Texans deserve much higher than a B grade for this draft. When you look at the winners from the draft, I think it's a clear consensus that the Eagles and the Texans won this draft. Which rookie do you think is going to have the biggest impact for the Texans this upcoming season? Go down in the comment section. Let me know. Hard not to say Stroud because he'll probably be the day one starting quarterback. But a sleeper I'm going to say is I'm going to say Henry To'oTo'o. I think this guy has starting potential as a linebacker from day one, even as a 5th-round pick. This has been a franchise-changing offseason for the Texans. And, you know, I remember this time last year, we were like just really disappointed with the direction of the franchise. And obviously during the season as well, it was a disappointing season. You didn't have much of a direction. But give a lot of credit to Cal McNair, who's obviously been scrutinized. He started to get more involved. Hannah McNair as well got more involved, and they're like, we're going to turn this thing around. Slam dunk hire D'Amico Ryans. I mean, that was the guy we all wanted from day one. You hire him. He puts together a fantastic staff. I think we're all really excited about this staff. Bobby Sloak is the offensive coordinator. I think is going to do wonders for C.J. Stroud in this young offense. Then you have this draft where it felt like night one of the draft, we were watching the Draft Day movie with Kevin Costner. I mean, trading up to number 3, having back-to-back picks in number 2 and number 3, taking your franchise quarterback in C.J. Stroud, and then immediately after that, taking probably the best player in this entire draft in Will Anderson. And then you had a lot of talent with those later picks as well. So credit to everybody involved with the Houston Texans. It really does feel like they've done everything right this offseason. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, youtube.com/Texans TV. We're trying to get you guys more videos. In order to do that, we need more subscribers here on the channel.